And welcome on this Sunday evening to Bethea'S Byte, Reloaded, the drama-free true crime destination. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. So good to have everybody in the house on this evening. And first off, again, my apologies for last week. I was right in the middle of a story, and due to scheduling conflicts that went with along with my laptop shutting down, I wasn't able to complete the broadcast. But that was last week. This week, I'm shooting from the hip. I bring no service lip. I've got nothing contrived. Justice in 5. What I mean by all that is, I've got 5 major stories I'm covering this week, and I'm shooting from the hip as I promised from last week. I will be shooting from the hip tonight regarding Casey Anthony's past and her present. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing underway. I'm going to start off with an update on Bryan Kohberger. As we know, the 911 call has been released ahead of his court case, and here's what we got. The audio of the 911 call made on the day 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death reveals confusion as the callers realized at least one of the students was not waking up. In the audio release, a woman called 911 at 11:55 a.m. on November 13, 2022. She sounded very upset while saying, "Something happened in our house." She broke down crying while giving the address. At that point, another woman took the phone. One of the roommates who's passed out and said, as she says, was drunk last night and she's not waking up, the second woman told the dispatcher. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. The initial caller came back on the line asking if she could tell the dispatcher what happened and saying at 4 a.m. The dispatcher cut her off, saying she needed to know what was going on at that time and if someone was passed out. The woman said they would go check and then said the student was still passed out and not waking up. The dispatcher told them that help was on the way. The caller or callers at that point sounded like they may have been crying and breathing heavily while telling the dispatcher that the person who was not breathing was 20 years old. A male person was then heard on the line saying hello, and the dispatcher asked them to stop passing the phone around. The male also told the dispatcher that the woman was not breathing. The call ended shortly afterward when police arrived. And as you know, Bryan Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of Ethan Chapin, Xander Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves. The students were killed in the early morning at a rental home near their campus in Moscow, Idaho. A judge previously entered a not guilty plea on Kohberger's behalf. Prosecutors have said they will seek the death penalty if he's convicted. Kohberger's trial is scheduled to begin March 11th and expected to last more than 3 months. And what I'm going to do right now is go to Court TV and Crime and Justice correspondent Matt Johnson so we can hear a little bit of that audio call.
Now, before we head to break, we have now the chilling, newly released 911 calls made on the day 4 University of Idaho students were brutally stabbed to death. The audio reveals the chaos and confusion among the callers who realized at least one of their roommates was never going to wake up. The audio released on Friday, a woman called 911 just before midnight on November 13, 2022. She sounded very upset while saying, quote, "Something happened inside our house." Breaking down crying, then she tried to give the address. That's when another woman took the phone away. Take a listen.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
The house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but you gotta go check. But we have to. She's so sad. What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. What's wrong?
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20. Here's one.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, you have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
That phone call happening around noon the next day after the bodies were discovered. Just chilling. That phone call ends shortly after the dispatcher told the callers to stop passing the phone around, and then police arrived. Bryan Kohberger is facing murder charges in the deaths of Ethan Chapman, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kali Gonsalves. The students were killed at a rental home near the campus of Moscow, Idaho. Kohberger's trial is scheduled to begin August 11th. Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty if he is convicted.
Okay, guys, that's pretty chilling if you ask me. That's my first time actually hearing that 911 call, and it's still very unnerving to me. The ones who made that call were brave in what they were doing, but still, it's got to be some. There has to be some more evidence, some way to see what comes of that, and I do have some more. I believe I have some more Kohberger updates as we move right along. So hang tight. Alright, let's see. Next up on our docket this week. Let's see. The mom that was charged with abandoning her kids is now accused of violating a court order. Nice. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald has filed a motion seeking to revoke communications privileges for the Pontiac mom charged with abandoning her kids for years. Kelly Bryant is under court order to have no contact with her children or their caregiver. But according to the prosecutor's office, records show Bryant Bryan called the children's caregiver 10 times between March 8th and March 12th. It's alleged that she discussed her children and her criminal case. Prosecutors also say Bryan had other inmates call the caregiver on her behalf. Kelly Bryan has clearly and repeatedly violated the judge's order not to contact the victims or their caregiver, McDonald said in a statement. That order is in place for an important reason: to protect the victims. The decision to ask that an inmate's communications be restricted isn't made lightly, but Bryan was repeatedly disobeying court orders and, by doing so, further endangering the victims. If this motion is granted, Bryan will be prohibited from using the phone, tablet, and video communications in jail. Bryan is charged with 3 counts of first-degree child abuse in the Pontiac abandonment case. During her arraignment, the judge warned that her jail phone calls are recorded. Officers conducting a recent welfare check on the home in search of the mother found the children living alone. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said the landlord notified them because he hadn't heard from her since December and hadn't received rent since October. First responders said that 4-foot piles of garbage were found in some rooms. Mold and human excrement were found throughout the house. Bouchard said the toilet had stopped working and the bathtub was filled with feces. He called the case horrific. Law enforcement said that the children had not attended school since their abandonment, which was believed to have been sometime around 2020 and 2021, passing the time watching television or playing games. It was reported that the girls had not been outside the home for several years, with the boy sleeping on a mattress on the floor while the girls slept on pizza boxes. The prosecutors said the children were hiding when police arrived and were afraid to speak to them. The children were taken to the hospital for evaluation, reportedly with soiled clothes, matted hair, and toenails so long that it was difficult to walk. We say a lot. This is the worst I've ever seen. And I've stopped saying that because every time I say that, I see something worse, Sheriff McDonald said. Bouchard said the children are making great strides since beginning to receive care. They have been forensically interviewed by professionals at Care House of Oakland County. They were also seen at McLaren Oakland Hospital. Bouchard said they will receive much more in-depth physical and mental health checkup in the near future. Neighbors told police they did see a woman drop off stuff at the home from time to time, but they never saw the kids leave the house. Bouchard said that the boy only left the house a few times. He reportedly only did so twice, once to just touch the grass, and then to go out and get the mail. He called the revelation the boy just wanted to feel the grass heartbreaking. You wouldn't do this to an animal, let alone your child, Bouchard said. So just to hear that he came outside to touch the grass is just crushing, soul crushing on so many levels. And I happen to agree with that statement. First, let me go back to the top of this story. Ladies and gentlemen, when a judge tells you that there's some things you can't do, you're not allowed to do this, or you're restricted from doing something, don't do it unless you're just begging to get in further trouble. Now, for the actual case itself, I've read stories about this particular case, and it just horrifies me. It horrifies me. How do you Abandon your children. Leave them for years upon years upon years, only stopping back once in a while to drop off some fast food before you leave them again. I know I've always said that people like them, those so-called parents, they're not parents, they're monsters. I've said that time and time again right here on Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. Kelly Bryant is the worst of the bunch. Not only is she a monster for abandoning her duties as a mom, she's a ghost for the abandonment period. She just pops in and pops back out. And here's another thing I say a lot, and I stand by it. If you didn't want the children, give them up to somebody that will. Those children are traumatized. They needed their mother. And where were you, Kelly Bryant? Where were you? You make me sick. Moving onward. Luigi Mangioni's lawyer. He's claiming the cops illegally collected DNA by giving him a snack after his arrest at McDonald's. The 26-year-old is accused of shooting United Healthcare CEO Bryan Thompson. Faces multiple charges in New York and Pennsylvania. Here's what we got. Luigi Mangioni, the alleged shooter of United Healthcare CEO Bryan Thompson, had his rights violated by Altoona police when they confronted him at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. At least that's what his lawyers are claiming. In a recent court filing, Mangioni's lawyer Thomas Dickey argued that police had no objective grounds to detain the University of Pennsylvania graduate, age 26, other than a hunch and or an unparticularized suspicion, according to reports from ABC News. Shout out to them. Officers responded to the McDonald's after receiving a 911 call about a suspicious male that resembled the suspect who shot the CEO in New York. But besides that, police didn't have independent corroborating evidence that Mangioni was in fact a suspect sought in New York prior to or at the time of their stop and or the emergency detention of his client, Dickey alleged. Mangioni's detention at the McDonald's on December 9th was unconstitutional and geared to restrict and totally curtail his liberty, his lawyer claims, per ABC News. After his arrest, officers allegedly provided Mangioni with a snack so they could obtain a DNA sample. According to his attorney, that any DNA samples are poisonous fruits and shouldn't be allowed as part of the evidence. Mangioni is charged with multiple counts of murder, terrorism, and stalking in the December 4th shooting of Thompson outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel, where a masked gunman fired at least 3 shots and then fled the scene on a bike. He has pleaded not guilty. Police said delay, deny, and depose were inscribed on the shell casings, an apparent nod to what critics have noted are strategies used by insurance companies to reject claims. 5 days after the killing, Mangioni was taken into custody at the McDonald's and charged with possessing an unlicensed firearm, forgery, and providing false identification, in Pennsylvania. Earlier this month, Dickey alleged that Mangioni's arrest in Pennsylvania was illegal because he was never properly read his rights, per ABC News. In a filing, he asked that Pennsylvania charges be dismissed and that prosecutors be prohibited from calling Mangioni's writings a manifesto, reports local Philadelphia affiliate 6ABC. Police said Mangioni was allegedly found with a ghost gun, fake IDs, and a letter addressed to the feds claiming parasites in the health insurance industry had it coming. According to a criminal complaint, Mangioni allegedly became quiet and started to shake after being asked by police officers at the McDonald's if he had recently been to New York. And this is where Mangioni needs to get himself straight here. Get his whole entire story straight. Did he do it? Did he not do it? There's video that shows somebody who looked just like him did it. But it all comes down to evidence, not hearsay, and it all comes down to whenever that case is taken directly to trial. Will that evidence be brought in? We'll see. Lori Vallow Daybell's up next. She was in court earlier this week, just days before the start of her Arizona murder trial. Let's see what that's about. Now, let me remind you all of the saying that he who has wait. Let me get myself together here because I'm about to get myself tongue-tied. The saying goes that he or she who defends him or herself in court has a fool for a client. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the latest fool. Alright, here's what's going on. Lori Vallow Daybell told an Arizona judge she's determined to stand trial for murder as planned on March 31st, even if her defense isn't ready. Lori was sentenced to life in prison in Idaho for murdering her two youngest children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, and conspiring to kill her fifth husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. Now she's in Arizona, acting as her own attorney on charges in the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and conspiring in an attempt to kill her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. The two cases in Arizona are being tried separately, with Lori scheduled to stand trial for Vallow's murder first. Jury selection begins March 31st. That's next Monday. Lori was in court with advisory council and Maricopa County prosecutors to address outstanding discovery requests and trial logistics. The discussions revealed that Lori is considered testifying in her defense and wants to call East Idaho news reporter Nate Eaton as a witness. It also came up that with just 2 weeks before trial, Lori wants a digital forensics expert to examine her late former husband's phone call and other pieces of evidence that she alleges she has yet to receive from prosecutors or prior attorneys who withdrew from representing her. Superior Court Judge Justin Boreski expressed doubt her expert would be able to complete an investigation and share his findings with prosecutors in time for trial. The judge also reminded Lori that he may decide to exclude her expert's findings if prosecutors convince him it's not admissible for any number of reasons, including untimeliness. I understand, Your Honor, and I'm hoping he can do it in an expedited manner, Lori said, adding that her request for an expert was only approved last week. You're the one pressing for your speedy trial, so you kind of have to make a decision. You want to go to trial or have that work you want? Because I don't think both are going to happen, the judge told Lori. This is one of the things you have where you have to weigh your options on whether it's worth it's worth it to get a continuance so you can have your defense do the work that you want done. Lori responded that she wanted to proceed to trial at the end of the month, even if it meant her expert was unable to complete his investigation, and despite the possibility that his findings may be excluded from trial. I understand that is a rule, and I understand how unfair and prejudicial that would be to me, Lori told that judge. Deputy County Attorney Trina Kay disputed Lori's claim that they did not have Charles's phone or Gilbert police footage, which Lori had also requested. Kay said the prosecution handed over everything they had to Lori's prior counsel, who withdrew from the case in 2024. Judge Levesque agreed to issue an order directing Lori's former attorneys to hand over everything they had after Lori accused them of withholding evidence and failing to do anything to help her current defense. The specter of Lori's Idaho trial for the deaths of her children came up during discussions of jury selection. Prosecutor Kay said there was no way to avoid mentioning JJ, Tylee, or Lori's convictions to ensure potential jurors would be unaffected by pre-trial publicity, including coverage of her Idaho trial. The judge agreed and proposed adding JJ and Tylee's names to a section of the questionnaire concerning familiarity with people connected to the case, a suggestion Lori agreed to. The parties, however, did not address how they intended to handle Lori's conviction during the trial. In another matter concerning defense witnesses, Kay expressed concern that the prosecution would be unable to locate and interview 21 people on Lori's witness list, including Eaton. Lori argued that her witnesses had already been interviewed by prosecutors except for Eaton. The parties are due back in court on March 31st to kick off the trial by discussing the jury questionnaire responses. Before then, the prosecution is expected to update the court on their progress with witness interviews. I still believe that Lori Daybell should at least have someone sitting in first chair for her defense. I've never been comfortable with a defendant defending him or herself, especially in a murder trial with the stakes so high. I mean, Lori, come to your senses. Have an attorney that actually knows what they're talking about. Have someone on your side that actually knows what they're doing, because clearly you don't. The last time this happened, she ended up getting an attorney and was still found guilty. At least your chances fare better than that if you have an attorney with you. Stick with defending yourself. In the words of former WCW wrestler Scott Steiner, your chances of winning drastic go down. Just saying. Next up, Corey Richins. She wants her trial moved and saying that getting a fair trial would be nearly impossible. Let's see what we got on that one. Corey Richards, the woman charged with killing her husband in 2022, is asking the court to move her trial from Summit County to Salt Lake County. Richards' defense attorneys filed a motion to change venue, asking that her trial be moved from Summit County to Salt Lake County, saying it would ensure a fair trial. Corey Richards is charged with aggravated murder for allegedly poisoning her husband, Eric Richards, with a fentanyl-laced drink. Her defense team said they conducted a survey in Summit and Salt Lake counties to show the difference in the public's knowledge of her case and preconceived attitudes. They pointed out that Summit County has a population of 42,759, while Salt Lake County has a population of 1,185,813. According to the defense, the survey found that 79.8% of Summit County residents recognize the case, and 98% among those who regularly watch or read local news. Of those who recognize the case, 69% reportedly said they believe Richards is guilty, and 53% said Richards would have a difficult time convincing them that she's not guilty. By contrast, only 42.5% of those surveyed in Salt Lake County recognize the case. Of those, 57.6% said they believe she was guilty, and only 41% said it would be difficult to convince them of her innocence. The defense also cited extensive media coverage of her case, especially at a hyper-local level. They said local news outlets have published 140 stories on Richards' case since her arrest in May of 2023. The defense also included an affidavit from Andrew Bork, the director of a firm that specializes in crisis communications, litigation support, media strategy, and stakeholder engagement. Bork said he conducted informal interviews, and learned that some Summit County residents are afraid to go against the family of Eric Richards. The Richards family's influence has created an environment where those who question Corey Richards' guilt are viewed as enemies, he wrote. Community members have directly told me that anyone who defends Corey Richards is considered an enemy of the Richards family. The defense said 26.6% of those surveyed in Summit County either had some sort of connection to Eric Richards' family or know someone who does. However, only 3.5% in Salt Lake County had such connections. In his conversations with Summit County residents, Bork said he believes fear of social and professional retaliation prevents anyone from publicly disagreeing with the prosecution or the family of Eric Richards. For these reasons, Corey Richards' defense attorneys are requesting that the trial be moved to Salt Lake County. Jury selection is scheduled to begin on April 22nd. The trial itself is set to begin on April 29th in Park City unless the court agrees to the change of venue request. So, if you have an opinion on this case and your opinion seems like it's going to go the way of Corey Richards, you just, congratulations, you may have just declared yourself an enemy of the Richards family. I'm trying to figure why that makes sense at all. When you guys figure that out, let me know, okay? Okay, this next story is a sad one. I know last week or a couple of weeks ago, I did a report where a mom wanted to declare her children dead. Well, we have something similar to that this time around. In fact, I'm going to take you right to Court TV. Coverage of this case regarding the U.S. college student who vanished almost 2 weeks ago In the resort town of Punta Cana, her parents have asked the authorities to declare her legally dead. In a letter to Dominican police, Subaraidu and Suridevi Konaki state that after an extensive search, local authorities believe Sudikisha Konaki, a 20-year-old student at the University of Pittsburgh, drowned. Initiating this process will allow our family to begin the grieving process and address matters related to her absence. While no declaration can truly ease our grief, we trust this step will bring some closure and enable us to honor her memory. I'm gonna go ahead and take you right to Court TV right now, and this saddening case.
And now let's go to our top story for you as the family of missing University of Pittsburgh student Sudiksha Konaki is asking that she be declared dead. A judge has ordered the release of the man believed to be the last person to see her alive. Take a look at this scene. This is Tuesday. Joshua Ribe appeared in a Dominican courtroom where the judge ruled that the 22-year-old has cooperated with authorities in everything that has been asked of him, while adding that he is a witness and he cannot be detained. Sudiksha's parents also spoke to the media on Tuesday near their Virginia home. In a tearful statement obtained by WKYC, the missing 20-year-old's father tries to accept his daughter may never return home.
It is with deep sadness and heavy. No. And heavy heart that we are coming to the terms with the fact that our daughter has drowned. This is incredibly difficult for us to process. We kindly ask you to keep our daughter in your prayers.
So what's next in the search for Sudiksha Konaki? Everyone's hearts are breaking for her parents. Where do they go from here? Does it stop? Let's bring in our guests. I'm so pleased to have with me private investigator and military veteran, also a veteran from the NYPD, Manuel Gomez, who's been following the case from the outset and has been in touch with Sudiksha's parents, and criminal defense and civil rights attorney Kesia Early. Good morning to you both. Manuel, let me begin with you. Is it over?
Unfortunately, I would say it is, because the family is almost exonerated. They have said that now they believe that he didn't kill the girl, okay? And there's a couple of things here that we need to take very special attention to that nobody really has. One, he showed no remorse in this whole case. There is no new statement of him saying, I hope she's safe, what can I do to help her, anything, This guy has the same look on his face like Casey Anthony, who killed her daughter, okay? There is no doubt in my mind, all right, that this guy is guilty, okay? This guy has changed his story 4 times. And one of the things that he did was, as a lifeguard, he said he dragged her from under the arm and then pulled her to shore and then rescued her. Then he goes back to his room, but he doesn't tell any of his roommates, hey, I just saved the girl's life. He told nobody. He's 20 years old. You just had a traumatic event like that and you told nobody? Come on. And the technique that he described was improper. The proper way to save somebody drowning like that, if you're a lifeguard, and I know the technique, is you would put both arms up underneath them, and then you would roll back and then have the person's head facing up so that they were not taking in water. The technique he described was totally improper. These are some of the discrepancies that the investigators in this case have dropped the ball on. And now the fact that the family has said, hey, we don't believe he did it, you just gave this guy scot-free clearance to leave and come home like nothing happened.
Manuel, thank you so much for that. I want to read to you both a statement from Michael Chapman. He is the sheriff in Loudoun County, Virginia, where Sudiksha is originally from and where her parents still live. And he said, quote, Sudiksha's family has expressed their belief that she drowned. While a final decision to make such a declaration rests with authorities in the Dominican Republic, we will support the Konanki family in every way possible. And I'm going to show you both a look at what's been going on since March the 6th when she disappeared. There's been a search of the beach area, a search of the surrounding area using drones, helicopters, divers, boats, police dogs. More than 300 different agents have been on the ground looking for Sudiksha Konanki, and the FBI has been assisting. Casey, let me go to you next, please, with how all of that effort didn't yield any answers, and it's so frustrating to everyone, is it not?
It is. And while I agree with my colleague's analysis of the investigation and some of the statements or the inconsistent statements that Mr. Reed made, from a defense perspective, they really don't have anything else, right? They have a story without motive, but they also have the fact that he was intoxicated. So maybe he was not in the right state of mind to not only utilize his skills and training as a lifeguard, but also be in the right capacity to remember what even happened, because he also stated that he passed out. Although that may seem like a convenient excuse, I do believe that the family they need healing and closure. And because they don't have any additional evidence to suspect that he was involved, I think that this is their journey to healing, because they, in essence, accepted the fact that she drowned as opposed to him having involvement. And that's usually rare with families of the victims. They want to hold someone accountable. And so early in the stage, you would think that they would hold out on their statement until the investigation is truly complete or an official statement is made. But it appears that not only did they hug him and embrace him and thanked him for saving her life the first time, apparently after he saved her life, she then wandered away and drowned again, which is his story. I just think that the family wants healing and closure and accepted the fact that she could possibly drown and, gone with the sea.
Right, Casey. Joshua Rebe, I'm seeing reports that his passport is unaccounted for, that apparently, it was seized and missing and nobody seems to know where it is. So he may not be going anywhere anytime soon, depending upon what happens. Manuel, tell me, do you think it could be that investigators are on to someone else and they're just not letting the public know right now?
In the Dominican Republic, I would say that would be a correct assessment. Again, this is not America. They're going to put things aside and say, yeah, by chance, we can't find it right now. And that's another delay tactic they would do. I wouldn't be shocked if they keep him there another 3 weeks looking for the passport to stall to get time to continue this investigation. Again, this is too premature to say that she's dead. Julie, it's not even a month of an investigation. Even in America, a normal homicide would take at least 2 months. Okay, this girl and this family, and I've spoken to the family, Julie, and the reason why they're doing this is 2 reasons. One, their culture, they don't want all this attention. And 2, this is a simple family. They're not that educated, and they believe what's being told to them rather than letting investigators do their job. And that's the sadness in this case.
Yeah, it sure is. Great insight, Manuel. I'm seeing NBC News reporting that the National Police did not confirm or deny that Rebe's passport was confiscated or that he had been unable to leave the hotel. So, it's kind of like, where is it? Officials, you either have that passport or you don't. You've moved on to another suspect or you haven't. Who knows? They never went so far as to declare him a suspect, but it raises an important conversation, Casey. They called him a person of interest. His face was plastered everywhere. We all recognize him. We all know his name. We've been talking about him for days. What does that do for him when he does go back to the United States? Can he ever get the cloud of suspicion off of him?
Julie, this has been a cry as a criminal defense attorney for years. I've tried many cases from misdemeanor to murder, but the murder cases are the ones that really make the headlines. And when my client is exonerated or when my client is vindicated by the jury and he's declared not guilty by the verdict, then you have to deal with the expungement process. And then after the expungement process, there is no law set in place where the media outlets can go back and either redact or come up with what is proper in this case. And that is the struggles that the defendants deal with. Even though they're innocent until proven guilty, sometimes it's like a word and not action coupled by it. So will he have a normal life? It's going to take a long time because he has to deal with everything that's on the internet. When you Google his name, that's always going to come up, and it could possibly affect future employment, even his schooling, because he may be ostracized. People will have their own opinions. You know how the court of public opinion works. All speculation, no facts. So it's going to be a difficult journey for a while until the laws are changed where the internet can be somehow scrubbed of the improper information. And you know that it's nearly impossible.
Right. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, Casey, because it is important to note that, look, he hasn't been charged with anything. There's been no evidence that's been put forward that he did anything to this young lady. We just know that he was with her and captured on film being with her. So everyone will draw whatever conclusions they may. We're not done talking about the story. We're going to continue following it every day as we get new developments.
Like I said, this is a saddening case, and my heart goes out to the parents of Sudiska, if I'm pronouncing her name right, Sudiska Kanaki, and I hope to have some kind of update on this case as to whether they're going to legally declare her deceased or not, or they'll have another person of interest in this case. I really don't know what else to say regarding this. Sudiska. That's the pronunciation I was looking for. It's tough. Next up, Karen Reed update. Her federal appeal could force a delay in the start of her retrial. Oh, we're just gonna jump right into into a story that it's gonna jump right into a story that I was saving for a little later. Okay, then if we're gonna jump, let's jump. Tensions ran high at a pre-trial hearing for Karen Reed after the judge denied her motion to postpone the trial due to her federal appeal. Reed is charged with the murder of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, whose body was found in the snow outside of a friend's house after a night of drinking in January 2022. Her first trial, in which her defense claimed she was the victim of a wide-ranging cover-up, ended in a mistrial in July. Following the mistrial, Reed filed an appeal seeking to dismiss the most serious charges she was facing after jurors came forward saying they had been unanimous in wanting to acquit her on those charges. Massachusetts' highest court denied the appeal, and Reed's attorneys are now pursuing the appeal in federal court. Prepare for me to sound like a broken record at the end of this article. Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, no relation to the country singer, said Judge Beverly Cannoni should postpone the trial, which is currently scheduled to begin April 1st. Jackson warned that a federal decision to dismiss 2 counts would send the trial into upheaval. The motion brought the hearing to an abrupt end after arguments over 11 motions and a ruling from Judge Cannoni found that the defense had committed flagrant violations of discovery rules when it presented accident reconstruction experts from ARCCA as unbiased and unpaid, despite a July 24, 2024 invoice that the defense paid to them. In court, both Jackson and Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan argued to delay the retrial to the week of April 25th, citing Reed's federal appeal. But Judge Cannoni refused to endorse the motion. She noted that the jury commissioner had arranged for large numbers of jurors to report on April 1st, and doing that again would take a minimum of 10 weeks. As Reed's attorneys and Brennan battled back and forth, both sides began to accuse each other of being untruthful with increasing frequency, prompting Judge Cannoni to warn both sides to stop. "We have a lot of ground to cover," Judge Cannoni said. "I suggest we take the personal attacks completely out of this." Returning from lunch, Judge Cannoni limited each attorney to timed arguments of only 2 to 3 minutes, frustrating the defense as they tried to argue against a Commonwealth motion to bar them from using a third-party defense. Asked to make their position clear, Reed's attorney David Yannetti named the 3 potential third-party culprits as Bryan Albert, Colin Albert, and Brian Higgins. When asked about potential evidence against the trio, the sides went to an extended sidebar. The final motion to be heard ended with a direct challenge from the defense, which is seeking to call in an expert to testify to investigative techniques. When asked by the judge and Brennan whether the defense would welcome a rebuttal case with officers describing a great investigation, Jackson responded quickly, "I have 2 words. Do it. I'd love that. I'd love a shot at that." Judge Cannoni deferred the ruling on the issue and said she would take it and many others she heard over the course of the 2-day hearing under consideration. The parties will return to court on March 25th, which is on Tuesday, to resolve late filed motions ahead of jury selection on April 1st. Okay, this is where I get to sound like a broken record. The first trial into the mistrial. Here's what I will stand by this. This will be my hill to die on. This is where everybody went wrong, from the judge to the attorneys on both sides. Now, sure, it's going to take a little bit longer, but how about polling the jury to see what charges were they unanimous on and what charges they were not? The most serious charges, if they were unanimous on it, they would say that. The pro, it would be on public record. Everybody and their mother inside that courtroom would know where that jury stood on the most serious charges. Let me rephrase that. On all charges. Instead of just getting these leaked reports like, oh, the jury was unanimous on this charge, they were unanimous on this charge, but they were a soft 9-3 on this charge, and a soft 9-3 on this charge. All they had to do at that moment, before Judge Beverly Cannoni could even say this is going to end in a mistrial, all they had to do is ask each of those jurors on this count, on X count, on Y charge. What is your verdict? That would be the first question. Second question would be, is this your verdict then as it is now? Like I said, the pro, it's on the record, in open court. There would be no mistaking about it. The only con in that is that it would take a little bit longer. But at least this con is outweighed by the pro before Judge Beverly Cannoni says, okay, now that we know where the jury stands, I have no other alternative but to take this case as a mistrial. But that would take a little bit more than common sense between the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney. Just saying. And now back to my regularly scheduled docket. Next up, charges have been dismissed against David Swift in the death of his wife. Ooh, this has gotten interesting. Last time I saw him in court, he was found not guilty on certain charges related to his wife's death. A man accused of killing his wife more than 10 years ago will not stand trial after a judge dismissed the charges, finding the statute of limitations had expired. At his 2024 trial, a jury found David Swift not guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder of his wife Karen Swift, but was unable to agree on a charge of voluntary manslaughter. 2 weeks after the mistrial on that count, David was reindicted on the charge of voluntary manslaughter. Circuit Judge Mark Hayes ruled the statute of limitations had passed and that the prosecution had failed to commence their case within an acceptable period, and dismissed the charge against David. The ruling orders him to be released from custody, subject to outstanding warrants in other states. That retrial had been scheduled for May 7th. Karen was initially reported missing on October 30th, 2011. Her car was found with a shredded tire near her home. On December 10th, 2011, her body was found in an abandoned cemetery. Her cause of death was ruled blunt force injury to the head. David faces unrelated charges in Alabama for stalking his second wife, from whom he is divorced. See, that's the thing, prosecutors. You have a certain time frame if you're gonna charge somebody in their case. You have a certain time frame. If you don't get it done, that statute of limitations runs out, you're done. That case is done. And now you're finding out the hard way now. David Swift is now free for now, as far as his wife Karen's murder. He still has yet to stand trial for his ex-wife's stalking charge. Next up, a 13-year-old is charged with murder in a planned and filmed hit and run of a bicyclist that was later posted on social media. An 11-year-old boy allegedly involved in a hit and run is now in custody, while the search for the allegedly involved 15-year-old boy is underway. This is our victim right here, Scott Dwight Habermale, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He was killed in a hit and run on May 29, 2024 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. In February, authorities received an anonymous tip that video of the fatal crash was circulating on social media. And on March 17, the Albuquerque Police Department arrested a 13-year-old boy for the alleged murder. The 11-year-old boy is now in the Children, Youth, and Families Department's custody, and the search for a 15-year-old boy is underway. All right. 13-year-old arrested and charged with murder in connection to an alleged deliberate hit and run of a bicyclist in Albuquerque, New Mexico, according to a Monday, March 17 Albuquerque Police Department press release. The team was arrested on March 17th on several charges connected to Scott Dwight Habermehl's death on May 29, 2024. Habermehl, a 63-year-old physicist, was killed while he was biking to his job at Sandia National Laboratories. The 13-year-old was charged with an open count of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, leaving the scene of an accident involving great bodily harm or death, and unlawful possession of a handgun by a person. APD confirmed in a Tuesday, March 18th press release that the 11-year-old boy who was allegedly involved was taken into the custody of the Children, Youth, and Families Department custody and will be administered an evaluation. Authorities are still searching for the 15-year-old boy who was allegedly involved in the hit and run. The three were allegedly inside a stolen car last year, recorded the accident, and the video circulated on social media. The 13-year-old is believed to be the driver, while the other two are passengers. The 15-year-old will be charged with the same crimes as the 13-year-old. The third boy is too young to be charged with murder. However, APD detectives, the district attorney, and the Children, Youth, and Families Department are working together to determine what charges he may face and whether he can be held on those charges, per the press release. The 13-year-old will be booked into the juvenile detention center. Children 11 and younger can't be held at a juvenile detention center. New Mexico courts can try teens ages 15 to 18 and sometimes 14 as adults for first-degree murder after a grand jury indictment. In February, the APD received an anonymous tip that cell phone video of the crash had been posted on social media, per the press release. The tip included the identity of the Instagram account and its user. The account was previously flagged in a different investigation. The APD Fatal Crash Team turned the case over to the Homicide Unit on Tuesday, February 25th, as detectives investigated the Instagram account. A middle school principal reported to Albuquerque Public Schools that a student reported the same video of the crash. Detectives secured warrants for the 11 and 13-year-old social media accounts and searched their phones. Their phones were previously seized during a separate investigation in June 2024. APD's digital intelligence team identified several video clips showing the three boys, including the original video of the crash. That's also according to the press release. That video captured the boys' conversation as the 13-year-old driver said he was going to hit the bicyclist as he made the vehicle accelerate. The back passenger, believed to be the 15-year-old, said not to hit the bicyclist going too fast. "Just bump him, brah," the driver responded. "Like bump him?" the 15-year-old repeated. "Yeah, just bump him. Go like 15, 20, per the APD press release. As the vehicle's front passenger side struck Habermehl, the 11-year-old, who was believed to be the front passenger, was allegedly waving a handgun in the vehicle, ducked, and laughed, per the press release. The crash's momentum then allegedly carried Habermehl and his bicycle on top of the vehicle's passenger side. "I am horrified by the video footage of a brazen, heartless killing involving 3 New Mexico juveniles, ages 11, 13, and 15, who targeted an innocent cyclist," New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham said in a statement. "This case is an appalling and heartbreaking reminder of the serious juvenile crime crisis we face in New Mexico and our lack of tools to properly address it." People magazine reached out to Bernalillo County District Attorney for comment. I don't know what is going on with our kids today. I mean, it's one thing. No, it's not, because I reported on a situation like this not too long ago in I believe it was either in Las Vegas or in somewhere in California. These kids got have nothing better to do with their time than to mess with innocent bicyclists. I just hope that when justice is served, it's done. At least it'll be done the right way. Put those kids where they belong, and let the family get the justice they are seeking. Next up, a woman has been charged with the murder of the Super Bowl reporter. All right. Woman charged with second-degree murder in the death of a television reporter last month while he was on assignment to cover the Super Bowl in New Orleans, according to authorities. Adon Manzano, a 27-year-old reporter and anchor for Telemundo based in Kansas City, Missouri, was found dead February 5th in his hotel room in the New Orleans suburb of Kenner. The next day, police arrested Danette Colbert, age 48, on charges that she had stolen Manzano's cell phone and bank cards. Kenner Police Chief Keith Conley told a news conference streamed online that a charge of second-degree murder had been added against Colbert, who remained jailed since her arrest last month. He said a suspected accomplice had been arrested in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on theft and fraud charges. The decision to charge Colbert in Manzano's death was made despite preliminary autopsy results being inconclusive as to whether he was killed or died accidentally. An attorney for Colbert, Stavros Panagoulopoulos, that's a name, did not immediately respond to an email message seeking to comment Tuesday. He said last month that police were making assumptions and guesses to link Colbert to Manzano's death. Dr. Jerry Sitanovich, the Jefferson Parish coroner, told reporters that the autopsy found Manzano died from positional asphyxia as he was lying face down on a pillow and unable to breathe after ingesting a combination of alcohol and the depressant Xanax. Both of them are central nervous system depressants. When you add them up, they're really bad. The coroner said, adding, one of the dangers is you end up in a position where you are obstructing your ability to breathe. Conley said he was very confident authorities have enough evidence to successfully prosecute Colbert for murder, though he declined to discuss specifics of their case. Police have previously said security video from the hotel where Manzano was staying showed him and Colbert entering his room together the day of his death. Footage showed Colbert leaving without him about an hour later. Authorities have said Colbert later used Manzano's credit card to make a purchase at a New Orleans gas station and several stores in the area. Police have also said Manzano's medical records showed no prescriptions for Xanax or other depressants, and that they recovered the drug from Colbert's home. Look, there's a lot of pieces in this puzzle, the police chief said. We recognize it's going to be a circumstantial case. As for the man charged with theft and fraud alongside Colbert, Conley said that police had found correspondence and information where they were going back and forth, so we think they were working hand in hand in concert with each other. Last year, a Louisiana jury found Colbert guilty of theft and fraud charges in an unrelated case. In 2022, Colbert was twice arrested in Las Vegas on felony charges of grand larceny and administering a drug to aid in a felony crime. That's according to court records. In both cases, she was accused of drugging men at their hotel rooms and stealing from them. The charges were dismissed because the evidence did not want to because the victims, did not want to testify in court. Kohberger's attorney for those cases, Daniel Lippman, told this to the Associated Press. This is one of those cases where I'm stumped beyond words right now as far as what would possess a woman to drug, kill, and steal from a news reporter. Words escape me right now, but then again, I'm probably trying to save my words for later. Next up, Michael Proctor. Prominent name in the Karen Reed case, right? Well, as far as Massachusetts State Police go, they had 2 words for him. You're fired. After a lengthy 3-day hearing, Michael Proctor was fired from the Massachusetts State Police. Proctor was a central figure in Karen Reed's 2024 murder trial after he served as the lead detective in the death investigation of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Reed is accused of killing O'Keefe after a night of drinking with friends in 2022. Proctor was suspended from duty during Reed's trial after he admitted under oath that he had sent inappropriate text messages about the defendant to colleagues. The crude messages included inappropriate language and referred to Reed as a, quote, nutbag, end quote, and a, quote, whack job, end quote, with, quote, no ass, end quote. He appeared 3 times before a police trial in the last 2 months. Those proceedings were closed to the public. In a statement to Court TV, a public relations company confirmed Proctor's termination and shared a message from his family. We are truly disappointed with the trial board's decision as it lacks precedent and unfairly exploits and scapegoats one of their own, a trooper with a 12-year unblemished record. Despite the Massachusetts State Police's dubious and relentless efforts to find more inculpatory evidence against Michael Proctor on his phones, computers, and cruiser data, the messages on his personal phone, referring to the person who killed a fellow beloved police officer, are all that they found. The messages prove one thing, and that Michael is human, not corrupt, not incompetent in his role as a homicide detective, and certainly not unfit to continue to be a Massachusetts state trooper. Proctor's messages about Reed have created issues in other cases where he served as lead investigator. Bryan Walsh, who was charged with the murder of his missing wife, Anna Walsh, has been fighting for access to internal affairs records and other messages on Proctor's phone. Now, guys, I'm gonna say my piece as far as not just from what I've read, but what may have contributed to it. I believe, now this is just my opinion now. I believe when he texted those words out to colleagues, I think he was not totally in his right frame of mind. I mean, who would even? Yeah, I know it may have been on your personal phone, Proctor, but who in their right mind would go as far as calling the defendant in this murder case a? Let me go back to the article again. Let's go back to what he called her. called her a quote-unquote nutbag, a quote-unquote whack job with quote-unquote no ass. Who in their right mind would do something like that? It's because of that unprofessionalism is the reason why Massachusetts police said Michael Proctor, you're fired. Next up. Oh, and this one is heartbreaking. So heartbreaking enough, I'm going to have to put the trigger warning up. A Louisiana mother accused of beating her 8-month-old baby boy to death. Investigators says that this is absolutely heartbreaking. Just reading that headline alone, I agree. Before I bring this article to you, first here's our defendant, Autumn Harper. Now, as I read this, wait till we see our little victim, and you'll see why it's so absolutely heartbreaking. A Louisiana mother is behind bars after police say she beat her 8-month-old son to death. 24-year-old Autumn Victoria Harper of Franklinton was charged with first-degree murder, according to the Washington Parish Sheriff's Office in a press release on Wednesday, March 19th. The victim was identified as Sterling Rogers, according to local news stations WDSU 6 and Fox 8 reported. Franklinton Police Chief Justin Brown told WDSU 6 it was an absolutely heartbreaking situation, which he said allegedly included ongoing abuse. Let's take a look at that. Look at that little guy. Cute as a button. Why? Preliminary information that we have through an autopsy is we do have skull fractures that are there. We do have fractures in the ribs, arms, legs, but I'm being told that the vast majority of those injuries are healing injuries. I think it's probably one of the worst cases that I've ever experienced that I've personally worked on in my career, the police chief added. Brown admits he has questions. Why was it not seen? Why was it not prevented, he asked. The Franklinton official stated that if Harper knew she was having difficulties, and this is one of the questions I normally would have. If she knew she was having difficulties, why didn't she give Sterling to someone else who could have taken care of him? Sterling was taken to Riverside Medical Center last week with severe injuries before being airlifted to Children's Hospital in New Orleans, where he later died Monday, March 17th. Harper's mother, Natasha Hanna, told Fox 8 through tears that the death of her only grandchild was devastating. I'm going to miss everything about him, the grandmother said. Every time I close my eyes, I have nightmares. See bad images, Hanna said, referring to the 8-month-old as my heart. Brown told Fox 8 that Harper admitted to the injuries, which included brain swelling. Hanna partially agreed with the police chief's statement. Look at this. She's admitted to small things, like putting her hand over his mouth, maybe when he was crying, she said of her daughter disciplining the infant. Harper appeared to be struggling with her mental health, according to Brown. You have a mother that has exhibited signs and admitted to the fact that she's caused harm to her child. How could mental health not be involved, he said. The grieving grandmother shared what she will miss about Sterling. Everything made him smile. He was just a happy baby. He loved his mama and his mama very much. Those were his two favorite people, Hano told Fox 8. The Washington Parish Sheriff's Office said in a press release that no bond has been set for Harper at this time. Which brings me to my PSA. Like Sterling, no child deserves that kind of treatment. No child deserves to be punished that way. No child deserves to be abused. If you or someone you know suspects child abuse, you are encouraged to call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline. That number is 1-800-4-A-CHILD. 1-800-422-4453. Or you can go to www.childhelp.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential. The hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in more than 170 languages. It hurts my heart to even be reporting on stories like this. The next one could very well be the last one, and you could be the catalyst of it. Call Child Help right now if you suspect child abuse. Once again, that number, 1-800-4-A-CHILD. 1-800-422-4453. And as for that grandmother, all I can do is extend my condolences. I extend my sympathy for the loss of your grandson. It's maddening. It's heartbreaking. It is so maddening and so heartbreaking that a mother, whether they're going through mental health issues or not, it's so maddening that any parent would just severely beat a child. Severely beating a child to death. Like I said, that PSA, no child deserves that. That'll be my hill to die on. No child deserves that. None. I pray to God pray to God that Will Sterling gets the justice he's due. And I pray that as Autumn gets the tail end of that justice that she's got coming to her, I hope to God she gets the help she desperately needs. Because as easy it would be for me to label her a monster, I know if she's dealing with mental health issues that led to her beating her child to death, she is literally begging for help. Let's see, next up. Here we go. From a mom beating her child to death to a child shooting his father. This time it's a retired New York cop fatally shot by his son days after reporting him missing. Christopher Miller was charged with second-degree murder after allegedly shooting his father multiple times in their Dix Hills home in New York on Wednesday. I am going to open this up in another window. Or should I say another tab? And I am going to bring this report to you real quick, and I'll bring the article immediately after. I'm sorry, guys. I know you may have heard the audio, but I'm gonna try and fix this again, and where you can actually see it. So I'm gonna leave it right there on the page where you can actually see it all. Okay.
Now, for some news at this hour, retired Suffolk County Police detective was shot to death inside his home in Dix Hills. The police arresting his son, charging him with second-degree murder. A short time ago, 43-year-old Chris Miller moved in with his dad after divorcing his wife. Suffolk County homicide detectives say deadly shooting was the culmination of a series of events that began Monday. Chris Miller involved in a traffic collision that required hospitalization. Chris notified the father of the car wreck, so Jack Miller, the father, filed a missing persons report. Officers responded to the Miller home, telling the older Miller that his son was in the ER. Jack Miller picks his son up from the hospital, after which tension simmered inside that house on Bruno Lane.
This morning, Christopher went into his room, got a shotgun, came downstairs. An argument ensued between him and his father, John, and Christopher shot him multiple times. He then fled the house, leaving the shotgun behind, went to a location and hid in a shed on Seaman Neck Road.
Now, the owner of the shed where Chris Miller was called police. Responding officers returned Chris to his home where his deceased father was found. At that time, Chris Miller was arrested.
And that's courtesy of one of my old hometown news stations, WPIX 611 in New York. I want to thank them for their coverage as I go on with the article. Retired New York detective and volunteer firefighter was allegedly shot and killed by his son during a dispute on Wednesday, March 19th. The father had reported his son missing 2 days prior. Christopher Miller, age 43, allegedly shot his 75-year-old father, John Miller, several times with a shotgun inside their Dix Hills, New York home. This is according to News 12, Fox 5 New York, and Pix 11, citing police. Things unfolded after Christopher was involved in a car crash on Monday, March 17th. He allegedly got into a physical altercation with the driver of the other vehicle and ended up in the hospital. John was unable to reach him and reported him missing, said police. And that's according to Pix 11. Officers found Christopher at the hospital, and John picked him up when he was discharged, the outlet reported. Once at home, the father and son got into an argument, and Christopher allegedly grabbed a shotgun, according to News 12. Christopher recently moved back into the home where he grew up, following a divorce, according to Fox 5 News. He and John lived there alone. Christopher went into his room, grabbed a shotgun, and came downstairs. Suffolk Police Homicide Detective Kevin Bryan just told News 12, you just heard that. An argument ensued between him and his father. John and Christopher shot him multiple times. Bryan noted that John tried to take the weapon from Christopher before being shot. After allegedly shooting his father, Christopher fled to the shed of another home. He walked past the homeowner and wouldn't respond to her questions about what he was doing, Mayor said, adding that the homeowner saw someone walk into a shed. The same officer who investigated John's missing person report this week responded to a call about a disturbance in the shed. When the officer arrived, he recognized Christopher and took him home. That's when John's body was found, according to Pix 11. Christopher was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, according to News 12. He'll be arraigned in the First District Court in Central Islip, New York, at a later date. He was transported to a hospital for treatment for the injuries sustained in the car accident. Miller, a member of the Wyandotte Volunteer Fire Company for 57 years, was mourned by his fellow firefighters. Chief Jarvis Brown told News 12 that John was a 4-time former chief and 2-time former president. We lost a leader, we lost a friend, and a father figure. We lost someone who was really important to the Wyandotte Volunteer Fire Company, said Brown. Suffolk legislator Tom Donnelly remembered John for his public service, saying that will be his lasting gift, is how much he looked after others. He was an inspirational human being. People reached out to Suffolk County Police Department and Wyandotte Volunteer Fire Company. Parents killing babies, kids killing parents. What in the world is going on with us? What is going on? Oh. And this next story is just as bad even. I mean, it's a good thing I have the trigger warning up. A woman allegedly drowns her dog in Orlando airport after her pet couldn't board the flight. Drowns her dog. Allison Agatha Lawrence, as you see here, she was arrested for aggravated animal abuse after allegedly drowning her dog in an Orlando International Airport public toilet. Let me hide this real quick so you can really see my face when I ask the question. What in the what? A woman was arrested for allegedly drowning her dog inside a bathroom at Orlando International Airport in December 2024, according to WESH2, WFTV, and WFLA reports. 57-year-old Allison Agatha Lawrence was arrested on Tuesday, March 18th for aggravated animal abuse, a third-degree felony, according to an arrest record obtained by People magazine. The Orlando Police Department said officers responded to Orlando International Airport on December 16, 2024, after receiving reports of an employee found a dead animal inside the women's public restroom. A Greater Orlando Aviation Authority spokesman told WESA that a woman drowned her dog in a toilet before going through security checkpoints. WFLA reports that Lawrence was trying to board the flight with her dog, but she didn't have the proper paperwork to allow the dog on the plane with her. Lawrence was apprehended after police issued a warrant for her arrest based on evidence from the day of the incident. She was arrested nearly 3 months later and taken into custody in Lake County. After her arrest, she has since posted a $5,000 bond, according to the arrest record. Shouldn't have had none. The GOAA spokesperson recommended that passengers with pets visit the TSA website to learn how to travel with them, meaning all the right paperwork. Animal Rights Foundation of Florida animal activist Bryan Wilson said, "Obviously, we were shocked when we heard a woman had effectively drowned her companion animal, all because she couldn't get on a plane." Adding, "This is not a bottle of water or an oversized bottle of shampoo," per Click Orlando. Representatives for the Lake County Sheriff's Office, Orlando Police Department, Greater Orlando Aviation Authority did not immediately respond to people's requests for more information. That's a report, guys, that makes me sick to my stomach. I'm just gonna, alright, just for quote funsies, I'm gonna click on that link, and I'm gonna give you the information that that pertains to this case. What she should have done. Alright, this was released in December of 2022. It says that small pets. We don't know what size, how big or small this dog was, but I'm gonna assume it was small. Small pets should travel in the cabin of the aircraft with their owners. TSA will screen pets via the security checkpoint. Below is what pet owners can expect. All pets should be brought to the security checkpoint in a handheld travel carrier. Remove the pet from the carrier just prior to the beginning of the screening process. Place the empty travel carrier so it can be x-rayed. Never place a pet in the x-ray tunnel. The x-ray at security checkpoint is used to screen passengers' personal property and carry-on luggage only. If possible, carry the pet during the screening process. Alternately, a pet can walk through the screening process if the owner has the pet on a leash. A TSA officer will give the pet owner's hands an explosive trace detection swab to ensure there is no explosive residue on the owner's hands. Once the screening process is complete, owners should return the pet to the travel carrier at the recomposure area from the security checkpoint. This location helps ensure the safety of the pet as well as passengers. And this is just, it's crazy. I mean, sure, that's giving you common sense knowledge as to how to bring your pets in, yeah. But what this woman did is absolutely horrendous. I have no respect for her. I hope she does plenty of jail time. Plenty. And I hope that she can never, ever even think about owning or even adopting a pet again. Alright. Next up, another Bryan Kohberger update. This time the prosecutors say that Kohberger bought the knife on Amazon months before. A flurry of court documents filed this week in the case of Bryan Kohberger, the man charged in the killings of 4 University of Idaho students in late 2022, offers new details about how the case against him is shaping up. 30-year-old Kohberger is accused of the stabbing deaths of Ethan Chapin, Xander Kernodle, Madison Logan, and Kaylee Gonzalez at a rental home near Camden in Moscow, Idaho. Autopsy showed the 4 were all likely asleep when they were attacked. Some had defensive wounds, and each was stabbed multiple times. Kohberger, then a criminal justice graduate student at Washington State University, was arrested in Pennsylvania weeks after the killings. Investigators said they matched his DNA to generic material recovered from a knife sheath found at the crime scene. Here's everything you need to know about the case and the recent developments as the trial is set to begin this summer. Oh, and no, this shot right here, this is a selfie that he allegedly taken. So, what's happened so far in the case? Kohberger has been charged with 4 counts of murder in the November 13th, 2022 stabbing. Prosecutors intend to seek the death penalty if he is convicted. When asked to enter a guilty plea last year, Kohberger stood silent, prompting the judge to enter a not guilty plea on his behalf. The killing shook the small farming community of about 25,000 people, which hadn't had a homicide in about 5 years. The trial was moved from rural northern Idaho to Boise after the defense expressed concerns that Kohberger wouldn't get a fair trial in the county where the killings occurred. So what does the new court filing show? The newly filed documents include pretrial motions that will shape what evidence and expert testimony will be allowed at Kohberger's trial, which is set to begin August 11th and expected to last more than 3 months. They show that prosecutors intend to reintroduce evidence of Kohberger's click history at Amazon.com, showing he purchased a K-bar knife, a military-style fixed-blade knife, along with a sheep and sharpener in March, 8 months before the killings. A K-bar knife was found next to one of the victims. Further, prosecutors say the Amazon click history shows Kohberger searched for a K-bar knife in the days after the killings. Kohberger's click activity after the homicides makes it more probable than it would be without the evidence that Kohberger had a reason to search for a K-bar knife and sheath after the homicides. Kohberger's attorneys have sought to exclude the online shopping history, saying it could be taken out of context or not reflect the influence of algorithms that recommend purchases. As I showed you just moments ago, Kohberger took a smiling selfie after the killings. Prosecutors say they also intend to introduce what appears to be a self-portrait Kohberger took on his phone at 10:31 a.m. on November 13, 2022, just hours after the killings. In it, he is smiling and giving a thumbs-up gesture. A roommate who was in the rental home, sleeping and intoxicated, told police she woke up and saw a man she didn't know, someone with, quote, bushy eyebrows, who was wearing a face mask. Defense attorneys have asked the judge to exclude from the jury any description of the attacker having bushy eyebrows, saying that could prejudice the jury. If evidence of bushy eyebrows is presented to the jury might well believe that Mr. Kohberger is guilty simply because of bushy eyebrows, defense attorneys wrote. The prosecutors say the roommate's description is credible, and they want to introduce Kohberger's selfie because it shows his appearance shortly after the killings. Whether or not Bryan Kohberger can be described as having bushy eyebrows is factual determination to be decided by the jury. So what's next? Judge Stephen Hitler has scheduled a hearing for April 9th to consider the pretrial motions. Among those to be decided are arguments whether an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis would preclude Kohberger from being eligible for the death penalty if convicted, and over whether jurors should hear audio of a 911 call made by 2 women in the house roughly 8 hours after the killings, as they realized one of their roommates wasn't waking up. The court has issued a gag order for everyone involved in the trial and won't allow cameras in the courtroom. So they have for the Bryan Kohberger report. When we get more updates on that, we'll bring it to you. I originally had it planned for closing arguments in the Bad Blood shooting trial, but instead, what I have is verdict watch. We have a verdict in that trial, and we're going to take you to courtroom right now.
Mr. Foreperson, could you please stand? Thank you, sir. As to the first charge ID 228-154C, which charges Jason Levesque with the offense of attempted murder, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
And the verdict is not guilty. All members of the jury, so say it all? Yes. Yes. Attorney Dettelhoff, would you like the jury to vote? And as to the second charge ID 2228155C, which charges Jason Levesque with the offense of first-degree assault, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty? And the verdict is guilty on first-degree assault. So say you all members of the jury.
Yes.
Attorney Sisti, would you like the jury poll? Thank you.
A split verdict. Not guilty of murder, but guilty of first-degree assault. Let's break this down. A New Hampshire man who has shot his neighbor 6 times was acquitted of an attempted murder charge. Jason Levesque shot Kyle Violent 6 times on April 4th, 2024 in an altercation over snow plowing. He was found not guilty of attempted murder, however. The jury convicted him of first-degree assault. He's facing up to 15 years in prison at his sentencing, which will be scheduled at a later date. In their opening statement, the defense said Levesque shot Violette in self-defense. Prosecutors said video shows Levesque shooting Violette 5 more times after he fell to the ground, calling the shooting absolutely unnecessary and unjustified. Their daughters reportedly witnessed the altercation. Shooting of Violette, severely injured. Following a bail hearing for Levesque, he told Foster's Daily Democrat he still has bullets in his body that cannot be safely removed. So there you go. Split verdict. Well, I'll be hopefully we'll be fine when we get the sentencing date or sentencing information. I can bring that to you as well. Oh, and whether I do it this week or next, I will talk about the jailhouse calls regarding Stephen Stearns in relation to the murder of Madeline Soto. So there's a little tease for possibly next week. And we have yet another verdict watch. The military wife murder trial, state of Kentucky, Commonwealth of Kentucky, versus Jordan Henning. Let's go there. Let's go there now.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Foreperson of the grand jury of the jury has the jury reached a verdict. Yes, sir. All right. If you'll hand that verdict to my bailiff. And before I read the verdict, this verdict unanimous for all 12 jurors. Defendant's counsel, please rise. I want to caution everyone again, there will be no outburst. It's inappropriate for the party counsel, anyone else in the courtroom to react and engage to the verdict. I'm looking back on page 11. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree manslaughter and instruction number 6, signed by the foreperson. Again, let me ask you, foreperson, did I read that correctly, and is that all 12 jurors agree with that verdict? All right.
Guilty of first-degree manslaughter for Jordan Henning. Former U.S. Army service member has been found guilty of manslaughter in the shooting death of his wife, who was also a ranking officer in the military. A Kentucky jury, as you've just seen, convicted Jordan Henning in the death of Sergeant First Class Ashley Henning in the Hardin County home on June 26, 2023. That day was Ashley's 37th birthday, and the couple had hosted friends to celebrate. Prosecutors charged Jordan with intentional murder, arguing he harbored hatred in his heart for his wife over the strained relationship. They relied on home security footage from inside the Henning home that showed Jordan shooting Ashley 4 times, going into another room to reload his gun, then returning to the kitchen to shoot her one more time and spit on her body. Jordan testified in his defense and told the jury he broke during a fight with Ashley after allegedly enduring years of abuse from her. Henning's defense claimed he suffered from an extreme emotional disturbance that impaired his judgment. In Kentucky, an extreme emotional disturbance can be used as a defense that reduces a murder charge to manslaughter. A 12-person jury appeared to side with Jordan's defense and found him guilty of the lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter. The jurors later sentenced Jordan to 20 years in prison in the trial's penalty phase, the maximum sentence for the offense. He must complete 85% of his sentence before he is eligible for parole consideration. Next video camera footage from inside the Henning home show the couple arguing as they cleaned up after the party. One of Ashley's sons ran to a neighbor's house for help as the couple clashed over putting away a slip and slide. Their neighbor, Jimmy Watts, testified that Jordan threatened him and put him in a headlock when he tried to intervene, prompting Watts to flee and call 911. Prosecutors and the defense both said Watts' departure was a tipping point that led to Jordan grabbing a gun from the upstairs bedroom and pulling it on Ashley. Jordan testified he feared for his life because he heard Watts say he was going to get his gun, an allegation Watts and another witness denied. Assistant Commonwealth Attorney Eric Carr argued Jordan went for the gun to punish Ashley for their neighbor's call to 911, which in all likelihood could have ended his military career. The video showed Jordan shooting Ashley as she sat in a chair on their patio, pleading for him to be a man and put down the gun. After Ashley stumbled through the back door and onto the kitchen floor, the video showed Jordan's gun jamming as he tried to continue shooting. He ran to another room and reloaded before returning to the kitchen and shooting Ashley one more time. Now Jordan stands to face a military court for his wife's death. He will formally be sentenced on a date to be determined. So he's sure he's guilty of first-degree manslaughter, but as far as his military career, his career's over. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You think he's gonna just when you think he's gonna feel the weight of civilian justice, he's gonna feel the weight of the uniform code of military justice. I did that. Now we have the key players and courtroom evidence in the toxic murder trial. All right. Here's what's going on with that. Nearly 2 decades after 18-year-old Anita Knudsen was found stabbed in her bed, her roommate, Nicole Rice, now 37 years old, stands trial for her murder. Prosecutors painted a picture of a strained friendship that culminated in Rice killing her roommate on June 3, 2007. The defense said Rice had an alibi when the murder took place. Pointed to alternative suspects and said charges only came about after the case was sensationalized by the media. Here are the key witnesses and crucial evidence presented at Rice's trial, which began March 18th. This is Anita Knudsen. She shared a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment with Nicole Rice in Minot, North Dakota. Knudsen was adopted at 5 months of age by Gordon and Sharon Knudsen in Anaheim, California, where she lived until the family relocated to North Dakota when Anita was in high school. According to Anita's obituary, she wrote and published a book in 8th grade. At the time of her death, she was studying elementary education at Minot State University and worked at a hotel and a shop in the mall. This is the defendant, Nicole Rice, formerly Nicole Thomas, charged with felony murder in the death of her roommate, Anita Knudsen. At the time of the murder, the two women shared an apartment in North Dakota. Though friends told police the two had a strained relationship. At the time of the murder, Rice worked at a call center in Minot, where her supervisor said she was a great sales agent. Rice told investigators that she was at her parents' farm 20 miles away from her apartment the weekend of Anita's murder. These are Anita's adoptive parents, Sharon and Gordon Knudsen. They both testified on day one of Nicole Rice's trial. Anita's mother testified that Anita and Nicole did not share the same friend group. She said her daughter was scared of Nicole, even having her father install a lock on her bedroom door to protect her privacy. Sharon testified about the incredible loss her daughter's death had on the family, including Anita's brother Danny, who died by suicide 3 years after Anita was killed. Anita's father testified about seeing his daughter face down on the bed through the window. Gordon testified that he had convinced the apartment manager to get a key to the apartment. While she was gone, the maintenance man found a screen from the window in the lawn and believed it was from his daughter's apartment. This is Lauren, the resident manager of the apartment that Nicole Rice and Anita Knudsen shared. Knapp testified that she and the apartment's maintenance man, Marty Becker, lived together in 2007. They were both home on June 4th, 2007, when Gordon Knudsen asked for a key to his daughter's apartment. She testified about a screen that Becker found on the lawn the morning of June 4th. She said the screen was bent and had a small key-sized slash in it. Knapp testified that she lived with Becker for 10 years and believed they had a good relationship. She testified that he died by suicide on New Year's Day of 2009. Sergeant David Goodman was one of the responding officers from the Minot Police Department. Sergeant Goodman testified about finding Anita Knudsen deceased, wearing a light pink colored robe with her head by the foot of the bed. He did not observe anything in disarray, and the victim's purse with cash was visible. Sergeant Goodman testified that they brought the defendant in to see if anything was out of place in the apartment, and Rice quickly noticed that her iPod was missing. Devin Hall is one of the alternative suspects that the defense said all evidence points to. Defense attorney Rick Sand said Hall was caught sprinting from Rice and Knudsen's apartment on the day of the murder. Hall is currently incarcerated at Fort Peck Adult Correctional Facility in Poplar, Montana, on unrelated theft and burglary charges. Here's all the courtroom exhibits that I can show you here. This is a screenless window near the foot of Anita Knudsen's bed. This is Nicole Rice's room on June 4th, 2007. This is Anita's room when police walked through the home prior to evidence being collected. This is a close-up of a piece of folded paper on Nicole Rice's bed. And that's all I have, and the trial will continue on tomorrow. But if you wish to look back, come to Court TV, and you'll see not only the daily recap, but the testimonies from Will May, who said Nicole Rice said that she killed Anita, and another friend who said Nicole Rice told me she stabbed Anita over an alarm clock. Next up, and again, I'm glad I've got the trigger warning up for this. First off, this is in my Justice Serve file. A Texas janitor gets 6 years after 6 years after urinating in a cooler, water bottles, and infecting co-workers with STDs. 6 years. Is that really justice served, though? Here's the article, and you tell me. A Texas man who infected multiple employees at a Houston medical office with sexually transmitted diseases after urinating in their drinking water was sentenced to 6 years in prison this week. 53-year-old Lucio Carino Diaz pleaded guilty to a single count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in a deal with prosecutors who dismissed the additional 7 counts of aggravated assault he was charged with, as well as a single count of indecent assault, according to court records. My God. The deadly weapon, the prosecutors say, was Diaz's own bodily fluids. Diaz's actions were discovered by an employee of the medical office in September of 2022 per a criminal complaint obtained by People magazine. That employee told authorities that her concerns began when she discovered the water she got from a water dispenser had a funny taste and smell to it, according to the complaint. Not wanting to drink the sour water from that communal dispenser, she told police that she then elected to start bringing in her own water bottles each day. Some days she didn't finish all her water and left the bottle on her desk, she told investigators. Soon, however, she noticed her water from her personal water bottle that she had brought home from the store smelled nasty, according to the complaint. It was so horrible that she decided to just throw away the bottle rather than investigate the store, she told police. 3 weeks after first noticing something off with the water in the communal dispenser, the employee discovered the source of the off-putting taste and smell when a co-worker offered to make her coffee. The employee made sure to tell her co-worker not to use the water from the dispenser since it was sour and smelled bad, handing her bottle to the co-worker, according to the complaint. The co-worker asked why the water inside was yellow. At that point, the employee took a whiff of the bottle and smelled the odor of urine. At this point, the 2 women spoke to the doctor at the facility who agreed to do a urinalysis test. The complaint says that the test came back positive. The employee told police she then brought a large bottle of water and put it in clear view of a small hidden camera she set up on her desk and see if she could discover who might be urinating in the water. She had just arrived home when she got the alert, at which time she turned on her feed from the camera and observed the janitor, a person she knows as Lucio, open her water bottle, which was placed on her desk, unzip his pants, How sickening can you get? And again, I ask, you got only 6 years for that. It might be in my file, but is that really justice served? Next up, one last update in the Karen Reed case. The judges ruled that Turtle Boy's texts are fair game for Karen Reed prosecutors. Judges ruled that prosecutors will be able to access a blogger's phone to look for evidence related to witness intimidation in Karen Reed's murder trial following a bizarre hearing. Reed and her attorneys were in court to address several motions ahead of her retrial on charges she murdered her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, but their hearing followed one for a case that's closely related. Aidan Kearney, a blogger known as Turtle Boy, became a central figure in Reed's case ahead of her first trial and was a proponent of the theory that Reed was being framed in a wide-ranging cover-up. Kearney was facing a number of charges, including intimidation of a witness for his alleged behavior involving witnesses in Reed's trial. Because of those charges, the district attorney's office already has possession of his phones. The special prosecutor, Hank Brennan, took the unusual step of going before a judge to ask for permission to access the data for use in Reed's case. The hearing, which featured a different judge in the same courtroom where Reed's hearings are normally held, was interrupted by Reed and her team, who walked in while Brennan was mid-argument and sat down at the counsel table alongside Kearney and his attorney, Tom Bradle. Her team joined Kearney and Bradle over Brennan's objections. "We're not concerned about what's in Mr. Kearney's phones," Bradle told the judge. "We're concerned about the prosecution's bizarre interpretations of the witness intimidation statute." Judge Adam Sisitsky, who presided over the hearing, agreed with the prosecution that interference can be made that the parties encourage Mr. Kearney to personally attack witnesses and their family members with the sole purpose to embarrass, intimidate, harass, and deter these individuals from testifying. To that end, Judge Sisitsky said the prosecution was welcome to look at any communication Kearney had on 2 phones with Matthew McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, Bryan Albert, Christopher Albert, Colin Albert, Juliana Albert, Michael Proctor, and Elizabeth Proctor from April 8th to October 5th, 2023, as well as any pictures or images showing evidence of witness intimidation. Brennan told the court he did not intend to use the communications as evidence that Reed was involved in witness intimidation, but rather as pointing to her consciousness of guilt, given her frequent communication with Kearney. In a separate motion filed in Reed's case, Brennan has asked the court to give him text messages between Reed and her attorney David Yannetti between January 29th and February 2nd, 2022, the 3 days immediately following O'Keefe's death. The motion argues that Reed has waived the attorney-client privilege that would normally shield those conversations when she would voluntarily and intentionally disclose the existence of these communications and her initial thoughts about her culpability for causing the death of John O'Keefe during various public interviews. Judge Beverly Cannoni will hear arguments on the motion when the parties return to court on Tuesday, March 25th. Jury selection for Reed's retrial is scheduled to begin on April 1st and last several weeks. And when that ruling comes in, Bethea'S Byte Reloaded will bring to you. And we have a follow-up on the Jordan Henning verdict. Ashley Henning's loved ones believe the jury dropped the ball in the verdict. In fact, I'm going to play that video in just a minute. But first, it's telling us that Ashley Henning's loved ones are speaking out over what they call a miscarriage of justice in the murder trial of her husband, who admitted to fatally shooting her. Jordan Henning was convicted of the lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter in Ashley's death. The shooting occurred on June 26, 2023, after guests for Ashley's 37th birthday party had left the couple's home in Hardin County, Kentucky. Prosecutors charged Jordan with intentional murder, arguing he harbored hatred in his heart for his wife over the strained relationship. 12-person jury appeared to side with Jordan's defense as far as going to taking it to first-degree manslaughter, and they sided with their defense found guilty of that lesser charge. The same jury sentenced Jordan to 20 years in prison, the maximum sentence. He must complete 85% of his sentence before he's eligible for parole consideration. I'm going to take you right now to the fallout from that verdict.
Case in Commonwealth, Kentucky versus Jordan Henning. The verdict on the penalty phase is we, the jury, fix the defendant's punishment for the offense of first-degree manslaughter under instruction number 1 at 20 years, signed by the foreperson. And let me ask, is that the unanimous verdict of the entire jury? All 12 members? Right, thank you.
That was the sentence handed down to Jordan Henning, what many are calling a shocking sentence for the crime. 20 years for killing his wife, Ashley. Is that enough? The jury convicted Jordan Henning of the lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter, which really did surprise those watching highly disturbing surveillance videos. We were all able to see how Jordan Henning chased and killed his wife's birthday, shooting her repeatedly, coming back after his gun jammed and spitting on her. Ashley's friends and family were in distress over what they considered a very lenient sentence. And we saw Ashley's cousin not holding back his disdain and outrage for the jury's decision.
I have one more thing to say. I've served this country for almost 22 years. 20 years in the Marine Corps. I've deployed 7 times to combat zones. 9 times total deployed. And this justice is America's unthinkable, unspeakable, it's disgusting. Good job. How? Every single one of you. Cross-examination. Every single one of you counts.
Prosecutors argued that after Ashley's birthday party, Jordan flew into a raid. His defense team said there was more to the story than the video showed. They made the argument that Jordan was a victim of physical and mental abuse and simply broke. Clearly, the jury believed him in the story that he told on the witness stand. And we know that Ashley's family is understandably heartbroken. And I'm so pleased to be having on the show this morning Ashley's cousin, who we saw speaking out, John Williams, and Ashley's dear friend, Holly Victorino. May I just start by, John, first of all, saying thank you for your service, and to you and to Holly and everyone else in Ashley's family and friend circle who misses her so much. We are so sorry for your loss. I know this is a tough thing to experience and a tough pill to swallow last night for you with that verdict. John, would you kind of walk us through what was going through your mind when you heard the jury's decision, please?
Yes, ma'am. It started with shock, anger, confusion. I couldn't understand how anybody who's seen that video, and they even came back to ask to see the video multiple times for some of their jury questions, and to see some of the most gruesome parts and come away with that decision, it was unbelievable to me.
I'm sure it was. It was unbelievable to so many of us trial watchers who were watching it, and many of us, myself included, thought this was a foregone conclusion. When I heard his defense attorney ask in opening statements to find him guilty of something lesser than murder, that told me, oh, wow, this guy probably would have pled to that, but these prosecutors did not want to allow that to happen, and I don't blame them. I think they were absolutely correct to move forward on the murder charges. And here the jury did what they did. Holly, tell me your reaction. Where were you when you heard the jury's decision, and what did you think, please?
Yeah, I was in the courtroom sitting right by John. It was just the same as him. It was shock. I was devastated, disgusted. And I cannot help. I thought of this all night. I cannot help. I think this is strictly on prosecutors' shoulders. And also, I like this because Ashley was black. And had the tables been turned and he killed her white husband, she would have been held accountable and done much more time than 20 years. And I just feel like this whole entire court system failed her. When they were doing jury selection, they had over 100 jurors show up for selection. They selected 14, with 2 being alternates. Out of all of that, there was one beautiful black woman who was on that. Just yesterday, right before everything started, deliberations, they said they were going to randomly select 2 people to be let go. She was one of them. That black, beautiful black lady was one of them that got selected to be let go. And I cannot help but think there's just more to the story, and that a lot of it has to do with race, and I am furious. It's disgusting, and it's just something I feel like I'm never going to get over.
Holly, thank you so much for sharing that, the makeup of the jury. Thank you for sharing that. Wow, so this was then an all-white deliberating jury. Am I correct then, if you're saying that one of the folks who was chosen to be an alternate was the one you noted, just stunning black woman who was on the jury hearing everything? Ooh, you know, who knows? Who knows? But thank you for raising that point. And I know many of our trial watchers, who are discussing things on message boards and whatnot, have wondered the same. The one thing that I was talking about on my show yesterday with a friend of mine who's a retired JAG officer is that in all the testimony, we didn't hear anybody but Jordan Henning saying that he was abused. And I can't help but wonder if there was some projection going on. I don't know. John, tell me, in all the years, thinking back, I know hindsight's 20/20, was there ever a situation where you thought Ashley might have been abused or controlled by Jordan?
Controlled, yes. I did not think that Jordan would be dumb enough, callous enough, unbecoming of a man enough to abuse his wife, to abuse his children. And to be quite frankly, I don't think that Ashley would tolerate anything that would rise to the level of abuse.
Understood. So just controlling actions, maybe controlling words, but nothing physical to your knowledge. Thank you for that, John. We know that that day was supposed to be a celebration, her 37th birthday. A party at her house. I mean, and it turned into a nightmare, as you both know. Holly, you were so kind to share with us a video that a friend of yours took. You were there at the birthday party. Let's take a look back together at beautiful Ashley.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Oh, that's hard to watch, isn't it? And I obviously don't know her, but I just feel for you both. Holly, what do you think when you see that video?
First off, I just want to clarify, I was not at the party. Her other friend that testified, Jamie, was the one that recorded that. That's okay.
Yeah. Thank you for
seeing that video is, yes, ma'am. Seeing that video is heartbreaking because it just gives you a small glimpse of the type of person Ashley was. She was happy. Anytime she was around her friends, she was happy. Just the most caring, bubbly person. She had the best laugh. It was so loud and she just had the best laugh. And she was supportive of all of her friends and family. And I cannot help but be disgusted when I watch that, and to know that only a couple hours later, her life was taken from her.
I completely understand how you feel. You know, I saw that video evidence, and it's rare you get evidence like that in homicide cases, especially a domestic situation behind closed doors. And the evidence was certainly there to substantiate those charges. I don't know what the jury saw. I know what I saw. John, tell me more about Ashley, you know, because prosecutors are restricted on what they can bring in about a case victim, right? You can share everything with the jury, but the rules don't allow you to. So share with us more. Tell us more about your cousin.
Yes, ma'am. She was an Army soldier. She was a wife, a mother. She was a volunteer. She just recently graduated with her degree in human resource management. Volunteering at the local the food shelter down here in Hardin County. You know, juggling her son, taking him to soccer games and soccer practices. She was everything. She was Superwoman. She was Wonder Woman. She could. There was nothing Ashley couldn't conquer. There was no one that came in contact with Ashley and walked away with the negative perception of her. How do you take somebody like that in this world? Take someone like that who means so much to everybody away from us. And there's no way to describe what Ashley meant to me, to her friends like Holly, to her friends like Miss Jimmy Savant, to my family, to her children. How do you describe the loss of everything? She was everything.
What a beautiful human being. What a successful human being, an American hero your cousin was. My heart breaks for you, John, and for you too. I know, you know, sometimes friends are their family of the heart, right? You know, and I know you loved her too, just like John does and always will. Ashley's kids, I keep thinking about her kids in all this. And of course, you know, we can't show them and we want to protect their privacy, but how are they doing? Holly or John, if either of you have spoken to them recently, how are they holding up?
Yeah, I just spoke to her oldest son last night on FaceTime, and the best way to put this is these children were given a life sentence that they didn't ask for. Carter is still a young child, and all I think about is what if he's invited to birthday parties and he sees a slip and slide? He's going to remember the night that this happened and that this fight started over a slip and slide, and it's just... she's going to be their oldest son graduate high school this year. She would have been the loudest one, cheering him on, supporting him. She's not going to be there for anything. It's just, it is so heartbreaking because they deserve so much more, and all of this could have been avoided. I worry a lot about Carter, because he was unfortunately very, you know, in the moment with them when this was happening. He ran away terrified. He did what he could do to try to save his mom. And I know this is going to be on his shoulders forever, and I hope that he doesn't feel guilty for this. And I do want to mention that this child has so much weight on his shoulders that at Ashley's funeral, he couldn't even go in the room for a long time. And then when he did, he walked up to her casket, just collapsed himself on her body. And it's this jury, this judge, this entire court did her no justice. And now these children have to live with the life sentence they were given by the monster of a stepdad they lived with.
Wow. Gosh, Holly, thank you for sharing that. These are the stories that we don't get to hear and we should get to hear. On Court TV, we show the trials. Our cameras restrict showing that. And unless, you know, people like you who are tremendous advocates for Ashley come forward and share those stories, that they're left untold. So advocates actually come forward and share those stories. They're left untold. So for our hearts, our love and prayers go out to you both and to Ashley's children. They should be so proud of their mom and for her son who tried to get her help. He should be so proud. That was a valiant effort, and he did everything right that day. I hope he knows that. Please come back. Let us know how the kids are doing. You both, I know, are going to be great advocates for them. Whether you know it or not, you're already advocating for Ashley's children and carrying on her legacy. And I want you to know we're certainly not forgetting about Ashley here at Court TV. We're saluting her. I saluted her in my opening statement this morning at 8, and we want to do it again as we go to break. John Williams, Holly Victorino, thank you both so much for sharing all of this about Ashley Henning. And we go to break. Let's remember and salute Master Sergeant Ashley Henning. She served our great country for several years. She was the mother of 3 incredible children, and we know she was taken from this earth far too soon. As you just heard, she was a light and she was loved, and a bright spot in everyone's life who was lucky enough to know her. May she rest in power. We'll be right back.
My special thanks to Julie Grant for covering that interview, along with guests Holly Victorino and John and Ashley Henning's cousin John, the officer who served in the Marine Corps. Well, first of all, I salute you for your service, and I pray to God for that you and the family will find some type of peace that will surpass any understanding. And I pray for the kids as well, because like it was said, that while their dad is going to be serving 20 years, at least 17, because I just did the math. I'll explain that in a second. At least 17. Those kids are going to be serving life without their mom, and that hurts. That hurts more than anything. And if you're getting where I'm getting the number 17 from, he's sentenced to 20 years, but he also said that he has to serve 85% of his sentence in order to be even considered for parole. So 20 times 0.85 is 17. So that's how much he has to do before he even thinks about even seeing a parole board. And honestly, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair at all. All right. I'll drop this before I start shooting from the hip. This is in regard to the murder of Madeline Soto. I didn't plan to do this originally, but this is what happens when news comes in. A new batch of jailhouse phone calls between Stephen Stearns and his parents has been released. Stearns is the Florida man accused of sexually assaulting his girlfriend's daughter, Madeline Soto, for years before allegedly killing her days after her 13th birthday. Court TV has obtained audio recordings of the calls, which total about 4 hours. They were made from the Osceola County Jail roughly 3 months after Stearns was arrested for Madeline's murder. In one shocking revelation, Stearns admits to his parents that he discovered Madeline's body, essentially saying he found her dead, but there was nothing he could do. It's a total departure from the story he'd maintained since before he was even arrested. That the last time he saw Madeline was when he dropped her off at school on February 26, 2024, the morning she was reported missing. The phone call marks the first time the public has heard Stearns say he was around Madeline's body before it was discovered. Stephen Stearns. I wish I had run downstairs and shaken her awake and called 911 and all that. His mother, Deborah Stearns. I wish you had too, because maybe she could have been saved. Stephen Stearns. No, she was beyond that. When someone's that ice cold and just gone. Stephen Stearns' father, Chris Stearns. She was in a different part of the house? Stephen. Yes. Chris. She wasn't with you. Stephen. She had gone to be with me earlier in the night, but I left her alone for quite a while. By the time I realized anything was wrong, it was far too late. She'd been gone for a while. Seeing her pale face, blue lips, how ice cold she was. When they're gone, they're truly gone. There's nothing you can do. There's no coming back. She was past the point of no return. Deborah. Maybe God just delivered her out of a place that was going to be really bad for her. Stephen. I always knew life was going to be hard for her. Her mom didn't do her any favors, and since I had no say in the way she was raised or disciplined or anything, there was nothing really I could do about it but sit back and watch the train wreck as it unfolded. The call doesn't indicate how Madeline supposedly died in the house, and Stearns doesn't mention what he did immediately after allegedly discovering the body. In another call, Stearns and his mother discussed the news that authorities found disturbing sexual images of Madeline on his phone. When his parent asked him if he's attracted to minors, Stearns doesn't flat out say no. Rather, he states that he isn't generally attracted to them, but can't get into details for fear of incriminating himself. I don't even like most kids, Stearns, who faces over 60 counts of sexual abuse, tells his parents. Stearns also informs his mother at one point that Madeline had feelings for him and that Madeline's mother, Jen Soto, would joke with him and frequently say things like, "You better not leave it for my daughter when she's older." Although Jen has admitted she allowed Madeline to sleep in the same bed as Stearns, she has never been charged in relation to Madeline's death or disappearance. Jen maintains she had no idea if her daughter was being abused. Okay. Stearns' calls with his mother and father were also fraught with the defendant's complaints about life behind bars, including dehydration, his itchy wool blanket, having to settle for tap water, the toll lying on a mat has taken on his elbows and knees, subpar treatment for anxiety with medication, lack of pillows or sheets, and needing lotion for the word lines that have begun to appear on his forehead. Stearns told Romans that the facility is filthy, unsanitary, and teeming with ants. Stearns also expresses concern about what will become of some of his cherished belongings. For instance, he is very concerned about the whereabouts of a collectible popcorn bucket of a big plastic purple dragon that he insists is in a large box at the foot of my bed. He becomes equally frustrated when his parents don't know where his mouse droid is, and gets so exasperated trying to explain what a mouse droid is that he tells them to just Google it. Several calls include discussions about items Stearns wants his parents to have shipped to him, including coffee-flavored hard candies, various toiletries and books, mostly Michael Crichton novels. Jurassic Park was deemed a must-have. Stearns' mother draws the line at fulfilling her son's request for a copy of Stephen King's Pet Sematary because she didn't like the story. Coffee is a must-have too. I try to make sure I have enough coffee because coffee is very comforting, says Stearns. It's one of the few things that gives me any enjoyment here. Every time I drink a cup of coffee, it releases all types of happy chemicals in my brain. Stearns' mother frequently urges him to turn to the Bible for guidance, and for the most part, the calls imply that his parents are convinced of their son's innocence. Stearns himself says, "I know I'm not bad, evil, or a monster," and insists he couldn't have done it because I'm the same person that cares about people, cries at movies. Stearns does, however, admit one point that he realizes a death sentence is a real possibility. Murder one is as bad as it can get, he says, and the death penalty is about extreme as it can go. A moment later, he says, "I guess it's not so bad, right? You go to sleep, and then you go to heaven." Charges against Stearns include first-degree murder, capital sexual battery, and possession of child sexual abuse material. He's awaiting 2 separate trials. Stearns' murder trial is scheduled to begin in September, while his sex crimes trial is set in May. Earlier this week, Stearns' defense team argued that media outlets and the public should be banned from attending pre-trial proceedings. The judge plans to announce a decision within 10 days. This guy, I really don't know what to say. This guy is something else. He's got some nerve. All that evidence against him, and he's still claiming he knows nothing about what happened to Madeline. And on top of it, the fact that her mother let Maddie sleep with him in the same bed. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying his story, what he says in those phone calls at all. Not in the least. Okay. Now that I've got that out the way. Now it's time for that segment I really came for. Before I tap out on this, I want to thank everybody for watching. Those who are watching on the replay, you guys are simply amazing. I love you all forever and a day. Last week I vowed to shoot from the hip regarding Casey Anthony. Today, I get to do that because that's a case I followed from beginning to its end, and all the way to that point, all the way to this very point now where she wants to call herself a legal advocate. First, let me start from the beginning. It's 2008. Two-year-old Kaylee goes missing. Kaylee is all of 2 years old. Nobody knows where she is. Did her mother say anything to in regard to that? No. She was busy doing her own thing. Living her own life. Living la bella vida. Don't believe me? Look at the tattoo on her. In fact, she was so busy partying and doing all this, that, and the third. The last thing on her mind was Kaylee. In fact, Kaylee was so far from her mind, it took her 30 days, a month, to even report Kaylee missing. Then, as the time went on, lies, everywhere lies. She just kept lying to cover that lie, to cover that lie, to cover that lie, and cover that lie. Working for Universal Studios. We know that was BS. Left Kaylee with Zanny the nanny. That was a lie. Then on top of we go to her murder trial. George Anthony, her Casey's father. Casey was abused by him. That's a lie. All these different lies she came up with, all this song and dance that her attorney Jose Baez cooked together with her, resulted Casey Anthony not guilty. The only thing she was guilty of, surprise, lying to police. I don't care what anybody else will tell you. But one thing I will never ever forget is what her mother discovered and what her mother reported to police. Quote, "There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today and it smells like there's a dead body in the damn car." End quote. And lo and behold, what do we find later on in the swamp? The remains of little Kaylee Anthony. Something I can never forget is the news of they finding her remains. Number one. Number two, something I can never hear again the same is that lullaby. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I can never hear that the same again without thinking of little Kelly. So, let's fast forward. Here she is today. She's all on your Substack. Probably still on on TikTok, I should say. Probably still on your TikTok, grifting as much as she can because she's a victim too, right? She wants to advocate for herself. She wants to advocate for her daughter. She wants to advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. And if she really wants to, she can advocate 50 cents in my hand and I can go buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Because that's how much I believe her. In fact, every time she opens her mouth, I put her in the same vein as Donald Trump. Every time she opens her mouth, lies are going to come out. Every time she opens her mouth, BS comes out. And here at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded, we do not deal in BS. So, Casey Anthony, you can take that I'm a legal advocate. Advocate yourself for a conscience. Because right now you have none. Because when the time comes, either you're going to admit it here on earth, or you're going to admit it before God Almighty. You were the one who ended your daughter's life. You ended your daughter's life because you wanted to live la bella vita, the beautiful life. The beautiful life without her. Which makes you not only the most hated woman in America, in my eyes, still, but possibly the biggest monster walking the planet. I've said what I said. I'm not taking it back. That's all I got for this week, everybody. Thank you again for joining me here. Let's do this again. Same time, same place next week. Until then, and let me run this all back for you. This is your home for true crime news without all the drama. Your opinions matter, where lively debates are encouraged. Your voice is heard, and above all else, justice is served. I deal with no gimmicks, no drama, no BS. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded. Thanks everybody for being here. Until we meet again, you all know what to do.
Thanks for watching and joining me here at the drama-free true crime destination. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment on this video. Also, be sure to follow Bethea'S Byte Reloaded all over social media. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded.